So this first video is just a quick little kind of overview of some of the software, how it works, some of the user workspaces. You're going to get this message every time you open it up. I borrowed the license for you, I think, till July 1st or something like that. But just hit close on that, and then the program should continue to open up for you. As we go through these videos, the idea is not that you watch the whole video and then try to do it. I would highly recommend you watch this on your iPad and then pause it and try to do the steps as we're going through, because you're going to forget there's lots of little things in Revit. We're going to begin today. We're just going to look at the sample architecture project. So when you first get in here, you should have the sample showing up on your welcome screen. So we'll take a look at that and just take a look at what's going on in Revit here, some of the different workspaces. Some things will seem familiar, some things are going to be a little bit new here. Now, just an overall look here. These two panels, you need to have these open all the time. This is properties, and this is your project browser. So if you kind of think, if you remember back when we did Inventor, we had part files and we had assembly files and drawing files, and they're all separate file locations. Everything's going to be housed in one place here for you. So like if I want to go to my first floor plan, I double click on the floor here, it's going to take me into that floor plan, and then I can start to make modifications here. Anything I modify on this floor plan, like if I switch out this door here, or if I move a dimension on a wall, if I type in a dimension here, that's going to change it for every single plan here. So you could be going through first and second floor plans. There's your site plan, which we'll get to eventually. In this one, there are 3D views. So up in the top, there's this little, looks like a little house. If you click on that, that takes you to the default 3D, and that allows you to kind of orbit around on the inside. You may want to get familiar with some of the different view cube tools. So if you click on this, this is your navigation window. Here you have your free orbit. You might just push and pull zoom. You can rewind like where you were. So sometimes you get lost. Sometimes you might use the rewind to do that. Pan around. You can walk. So if I'm way down here, I can kind of walk around as I'm moving through the game here. Not a game, but you can make it almost feel like a video game if you wanted to. That's your full navigation window. Again, something you might, but a lot of times you're just using the little view cube up here as you're working around. And remember, just like Inventor, you can use the different corners, or you can orient straight onto a face. And then there's always your home view. It'll bring you back into that, whatever that home view is set to. Looking at the model here, right now we're in a shaded view. Down here there's some different settings. There's all kinds of different ways to view things. Again, we're in like a 3D view right now. Sometimes you might want to work in wireframe, which is a little crazy, and this might be if you're identifying like some kind of internal component, like you want to grab an inside wall or something like that while you're working on it. You might use wireframe. Shaded though is typically what you're going to work in. Your computer's going to run pretty good on that. You start trying to work in like realistic or ray tracing. You can see I got the spinning wheel of death right now. You're probably going to lock your computer up as your computer gets, as you get more and more content inside your model. It looks cool. You can get a quick view here. Lighting's not great, but you can take a look at that. And then there's ray tracing, which is closer to what a render is going to give you. But again, this is not something you want to model in. This is, hey, I want to see if I'm using the right kind of stone, or I like the color of my roof. You might go to this, but you can see now this is just kind of spinning on me, and my computer's starting to hum a little bit. So don't try to work in ray trace, but it does give you an interesting look. Gives you a little more realistic lighting. You can see some shadows in there. You can see the materials a little better. So again, I would recommend you work in shaded for all this, so you don't crash your computers and take forever trying to regenerate stuff. So again, I'm in 3D. If I wanted to move back to a floor plan, I'd like you guys to try this as you're going through, like move around some of these different views. These are saved views, so the default 3D is here, and if your default 3D ever gets messed up, if you delete this 3D view, you can just click back on the little house up here. That'll give you a new default 3D. These are ones that are replaced with a camera, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. It's got elevations, so the different, north, south, east, west, those are built in by default. These are some sections that were created. Now, if you look on the floor plan, here's a section. It's section number 1 on sheet A104. which this is way down. We may not even get to putting stuff on sheets. We'll see where we get to. But this is a section line that's cut through the house, and then we can look at that building section and see the house cut open. So that's pretty cool that it does that. So there's some different sections added in this one. You'll use sections a lot of times. If you're working on a set of stairs in the house, you might need a section to see what's going on inside of there. Detail views, there's some renders that are added. So these are a camera view that's been rendered, and then you can save that in the project so you can use it in sheets later on. And then down towards the bottom here, there's things like schedules. You can make windows and door schedules, all kinds of stuff. And then there are your sheets. So everything is housed in this one file. This file is going to make backup copies like every 30 minutes. It's really important you keep your file in a folder. Otherwise, if it's in a desktop, you're going to have all these backup files all over the place when we go through. So some other things here. I'm just going to go to 3D to kind of take a look at a few things. Sometimes you need to hide something. So let's say I don't want to see my roof in this view. You can select the roof, and then you can right click and you can hide that element or category. So elements, that single element, if you have like 5 different roofs, you can hide them all at the same time if you select category. So sometimes you'll need to do this to kind of work around the inside of your house. Maybe you're working on one of these interior walls, and then you want to get that back. So your hidden elements, they're down here. You're going to reveal your hidden elements with this little light bulb that's down here. So you turn that on, then everything that's been hidden is going to show up in pink, and then you can select it, and then you can right click and unhide in view, either by element, or if it was a category that you hid, you can unhide the entire category. And then once you're done, you just get out of that. That's going to toggle what elements are hidden there. There's some other things down here that we'll talk about later on. There's like different ways to crop things and view scales. That's a little bit further off for right now. Some things I just want to show you. Most of the time for this beginning stuff, you're going to be in the architectures tab, so you're going to be doing walls, doors, windows, floor systems, roofs, a lot of that stuff there. Eventually, we'll look at some things and annotate. We're not doing anything with structure or anything here. We'll do a little bit with massing and site when we put in your topography. But I do want to show you under the View tab, User Interface. This is if you get rid of your view cube, if you get rid of this Properties menu over here or this Project Browser, you can bring those back in by checking them. You're going to delete them at some point because if you look up at the top, these are all the different sheets or plans that I have open right now. You're going to accidentally start clicking stuff and you're going to close one of these. So just go to your View and User Interface and pull that down. So if you want to kind of just play around in this one a little bit, get a little bit comfortable before you start kind of in Revit, but this is just a real quick, normally we spend days on this in the classroom. Real quick, kind of what's going on. Eventually, like this little windmill thing here, if I select that, you see how that shows up in properties, I can change this then. So if I wanted to edit the type of this, I could go in and change what it is. I can select any element, so whether it's a curtain wall, whether it's a railing out here, I can select those things, and if there's different types loaded, I can change the type, I can delete it, but realize that deletes in every single plan. So properties is something you're going to use all the time. When you don't have a component selected, like if I click out here, the properties is telling you about the sheet, or view. So right now I'm in a 3D view. If I go to my floor plan here, right now with nothing selected, notice how property says floor plan, and there's different properties of the floor plan. Like eventually we'll get into visibility and graphic overrides. How do we turn patterns and colors off? We'll look at what the scale is set to. There's things like cropping the region. There's view depths, view ranges, all kinds of stuff we'll get into. But this is just a real quick kind of, this is my workspace. Notice you have all these different things open. So when you close this, they will all close individually. But if all I do is close this one, it takes me back to all these other sheets. You can also tile your views. So if you're really crazy, you want to see kind of what you're working with, and then you can close from here. You can expand them, whatever you want to do. But just a real quick overview on Revit. We're going to start. The next one is going to be setting up your levels. So you need to have this sheet done. Most of you have that uploaded. That'll be our next set. So we're going to do levels, and we'll do wall types after that. So that's it for this one.